Hi, I'm Dr. Matthew Anderson. The conversation today is called How Do You Like Yourself So Far? And I'm smiling when I say that because I'm hearing stories about people who are kind of going nuts and being bored to death that they don't have their usual distractions. You can't go to work the way you usually do, can't get out of the house, you can't go to restaurants, you can't hang out at the beach, all kinds of things that we can't do if we're quarantined or we're staying home as we're generally directed to do right now in most states in this country. And so for many people, that's a really tough thing. I'm not kidding. And so I want to see if I can help with that a little bit today, maybe a lot. So the question is, how do you like yourself so far? One of the ways that you can judge that is, how do you feel about being alone with yourself? Now, I don't know. I guess it was in the late 1980s. I was living in Hawaii. We lived there for about 5 years, and I had a client. It was a guy, and we were talking one day about him learning how to, in essence, be with himself. And he was telling me that it was really difficult, as he always felt better if he had something to do, he had to be with other people, he had to be out, busy, that kind of thing. And I said, well, what about spending some time alone? And he said, what do you mean alone? And I said, be by yourself, like for a whole day. He said, a whole day all by myself? I'm not kidding. This is the way he reacted. And I said to him, let me tell you about Molokai. And we lived in Honolulu, that area on the island of Oahu. And Molokai was, or is, an island maybe 20 something miles away from Oahu and Honolulu. And then in the 80s, you could fly there if you were a local for like $25 on one of those little small airplanes that only had like 6 seats in it. But you could get there for 25 bucks. And once or twice a year, it was my practice to go by myself to Molokai. Now, Molokai for a weekend. So, Molokai, then, I imagine to some degree it still is now. In the 80s, Molokai was more like Hawaii was in the 50s. It didn't have movie theaters. The kind of small little hotel that I stayed in when I went there didn't have radios, didn't have TVs, and did not have telephones. It was a very quiet place. And I would leave on a Friday afternoon, and I would fly over to Molokai and I guess I had a taxi. I took a taxi to this little hotel. It looked more like what a motel would look like in the mainland where we live now, but it wasn't really a motel. It was very small. And I would take a couple of books in my journal, and I would stay until Sunday afternoon, which I would fly back. And usually, the only time I would ever speak to anyone from Friday to Sunday night was when I was in the restaurant and I had to tell the waiter or the waitress what I wanted to eat. But that was it. The rest of the time, I wasn't talking to anybody. I would meditate. I would write in my journal. I would read. I would walk on the beach. I would walk in nature because, in my opinion, every place you look in Hawaii is beautiful. So it wasn't like I was deprived of beauty, but I wasn't stimulated by the usual things. And this was the 80s. There was no phone I didn't have a smartphone. There was no internet. And there wasn't any place to go except in naturalness. Now, it was beautiful, but I was alone, basically for 2 full days, about 48 hours. Now, when I told this guy about it, he said to me immediately, don't even suggest that I'm going to do that. It's not going to happen. He said, I don't even think I could do a whole day, like from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night. Maybe I could do a morning, just be by myself and not have anything else or anybody else to interact with. So I said, okay, try it out. He did. He did okay. In all the time we worked together, he still had great resistance, really, I think, based on fear of just being with himself. Now, I want you to think about that a little bit, because we live in a culture, in a society that gives us every invitation possible to not be alone, to not be still, to not just be with ourselves. You see it all over the place. And now that we have smartphones, and I have one and I love it and I make really good use of it. But now that we have that kind of technology, we don't ever have to be alone and not distracted. And yet, here we are in the middle of this quarantine, unable to do the usual things that most of us do to distract ourselves from who we are and what's going on. And we're having to simply be with that person. Now, I want you to think about something for a moment. That person that you see when you look in the mirror every day, and everybody looks in the mirror for some reason every day, that's the person that you have to be with 100% of the time for the rest of your life. You can't get away from that person. There's a book, I never read the book, but I love the title, and I've told people about this book for years. It's called Wherever I Go, There I Am. Wherever I go, there I am. I love that because it's true. Wherever you go, there you are. And now you are by yourself a lot of the time in ways that you didn't used to have to be. And the question is, how do you like yourself so far? How do you like that person that you have to hang out with all the time, you can never get away from? Now, I know addiction is a way to try to get away from that person. Being obsessive with things, being with other people a lot is a way to avoid ourselves. But ultimately, we don't escape that person that we see in the mirror. And so I don't think that's a terrible thing. I think basically if we pay attention to who we are and use this time, use this precious time, I'm telling you, it's very possible that in our lifetime, I might be older than most of you, but I'm telling you, in your lifetime and in mine, we probably will not see another space of time quite like this one. And so I'm asking you, use it. Use this precious time to learn about yourself, to get to know yourself, to become more self-aware, and along with it, please, more self-accepting. Now, here's a clue. A number of years ago, a woman came to me. She was, I think, then in her late 70s, and she had adult children, and she wanted to talk to me about these children. And she said, Dr. Matthew, my children don't confide in me. They don't share a lot of stuff with me, and I don't know what the problem is, and I would like to figure that out so that could change. And I said, well, I can tell you 2 things that you can do that will really make a difference. I don't even have to think about it. It's very obvious to me. She said, okay. And I said, number 1, do not overreact when they tell you things. Don't overreact. So if they tell you something that's a little disturbing to you, control yourself. Don't say, oh my God, I can't believe it, And number 2, which is related to number 1, let go of your judgments. Don't be judgmental in your reaction to them. So don't overreact. and don't be judgmental. Then you can let yourself get interested and listen and pay attention and open a space. And I said, what will happen when you let go of overreaction and judgment is they will feel safe. They will feel safe with you. And then it will be easier, much easier for them to open up and talk. How do I know that? Because the work I do every single day requires me to practice those two things. If a client comes to me and I say to them, oh my God, I can't believe you did this. What kind of person are you? That's probably going to be the last time I ever see that person. Because most of us don't need more judgment and condemnation in our lives. That's not what we need. We need some acceptance and understanding. And in order to get to acceptance and understanding, we have to let go of overreaction and judgment. Now, you can apply the same thing to yourself. A lot of people, they think, oh, he wants me to look in the mirror. I don't want to look in the mirror. Look. You're talking to a guy who has no hair on the top of his head, all right? That hair started to disappear around the time I was 30, and it just kept going away, and going away. Now I have a wonderful receptor for vitamin D from the sun. That's what I have. There's nothing to block the vitamin D from coming in. I'm telling you, I had ample opportunity to make judgments just about that. And a lot of men suffer terribly because they're losing their hair. Thank God I didn't. I just let it be. It went away. Some of it migrated into my nose and my ears and came out all kinds of other weird places, but not where it needed to be. I talk about it. I experience it with a sense of humor. And I let it go, and I go about my life and pay attention to things that are more important than whether or not I have hair on the top of my head. And it's okay. That's an exercise in self-acceptance. You can't change it. There's no way to change it. So if you say to yourself today, I want to become more self-aware, because I'm telling you, being self-aware is a highly important tool for being effective and successful in life. The more you know about yourself, the better you're going to interact productively and in satisfying ways with all of the people in your life. The less you know about yourself, the more messes you're going to make and not even know that you did it. Okay? That's a whole other video. But you can accept that one right there. If you don't know who you are, you're going to interact with other people in ways that cause you problems. All right. So you want self-acceptance and self-awareness. And in order to get that way, you have to apply the two things that I told that little old lady a few years ago that she had to stop doing. Don't overreact to yourself and let go of the judgment. Now, when you let go of judgment, you're not going to just start doing all kinds of crazy things because you don't judge yourself anymore. That's not what's going to happen. When we let go of self-judgment, we actually become easier and more pleasant to be with. That's the truth. If you don't pick on yourself all day long, you're not going to be so irritable, so difficult, so scratchy, so prickly. You're going to be easier. You're going to be more relaxed. You'll be less defensive. Okay. So, look in the mirror and say to that person, you know, during this time where things are so strange and I have all this time to kind of be with you, I want to get to know you better. And I want to care about you better. I want to understand you better. I want to love you a lot better. Now, if you say that with an open heart as you look in the mirror, a lot of you are going to start crying. It's going to touch your heart because you've needed to hear that your whole life. but you thought it was from somebody else. I'm saying to you, my friend, that's what you need to hear from yourself. I want to get to know you. You're the person that I'm closest to in this whole life experience. I want to treat you with less judgment and more love. I want to treat you with less judgment and more acceptance. And I want to watch you blossom as a person, as I encourage you, as I love you. That's what we all want to hear. Not just from other people, not just from mommy and daddy and brother and sister and aunts and uncles and all those other people, but from that person that we see in the mirror. Now you can take this time, this crazy, strange time that this flu-like virus has forced upon us, and say to yourself, maybe I'm being given a fantastic opportunity that might not ever happen to me again. Maybe this is my opportunity to love that person who's in the mirror. And imagine if you can, how that will change all of the life that you have to live with that person from this moment on. All of it will change dramatically if you say to yourself, I want to learn to love that person. I don't want to change that person in crazy kinds of ways. I want to start with loving them. I want to start with understanding for them. I want to start with compassion for that person. Maybe you've never had that before in your life. Maybe you grew up in a family where you didn't get all the love and attention that you really needed. Most of us didn't. Most of us did not. And that's okay, because today, as you look in that mirror, maybe you need to say to that person at first, you know what? I need to tell you, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry for what I've done to you. I'm sorry for all those times I made those mistakes and I said those things and I thought that stuff about you and I put you in those positions and all of that kind of thing that I did that just messed you up and made you crazy. I'm really sorry about that. I want to start over with you. I'm not going to run away from you anymore. I'm going to stop hating you. I'm going to stop judging you all the time. I'm going to stop putting you down. And I'm going to find a way to look you in the eye in this mirror and say, I'm giving you the best I've got. I'm opening my heart to you. And I'll tell you what, my friend, that will change your life. And if you do that, if you did it for 3 minutes a day, every day for the rest of this stupid quarantine that we're in, every day, you will come out of it far better than the person you went into it as. And in the same time, at the same time that you bless yourself that way, trust me, you will be blessing all the rest of us. Every time a person decides to care about that person they see in the mirror, they bless the entire planet. All of us are blessed when you do that. Because we're all connected. We're not separate. The love you have for yourself, the healthy, good love you have for yourself is good for me. Good for me and everybody else. So I'm asking you, look in the mirror today and say those things. I love you. I care about you. I'm going to treat you well from this point on, no matter what went before. And you will bless yourself, and you will bless all the rest of us. God bless you.